what happened at Herod's birthday party? This is the question that we seek to answer today as we continue our verse-by-verse study of the book of Mark on Walking Through the Bible.
Of his word, the glory of his cross.
If you have a Bible with you, you can turn to Mark chapter 6. We're going to be reading from verses 21 to 29. If you don't have a Bible, don't worry. Just follow along with us on the screen. The version that we'll be reading from is the New King James Version. So, Mark chapter 6, beginning at verse 21. Then an opportune day came when Herod on his birthday gave a feast for his nobles, the high officers, and the chief men of Galilee. And when Herodias' daughter herself came in and danced, and pleased Herod and those who sat with him, the king said to the girl, "Ask me whatever you want, and I will give it to you." He also swore to her, "Whatever you ask me, I will give you up to half my kingdom." So she went out and said to her mother, "What shall I ask?" And she said, "The head of John the Baptist." Immediately she came in with haste to the king and asked, saying, "I want you to give me at once the head of John the Baptist on a platter." And the king was exceedingly sorry. Yet, because of the oaths and because of those who sat with him, he did not want to refuse her. Immediately the king sent an executioner and commanded his head to be brought. And he went and beheaded him in prison, brought his head on a platter, and gave it to the girl. And the girl gave it to her mother. When his disciples heard of it, they came and took away his corpse and laid it in a tomb. In our last episode, we had Herod hearing about Jesus and all that he had done, and concluded that John the Baptist was risen from the dead. Since Mark hadn't told us that John died, he recounted for us what Herod had done. John the Baptist had been placed in prison because John taught that it was unlawful for Herod to have married Herodias, Herod's brother's wife. Such was unlawful not because of the divorce per se, but because the law of Moses forbade a person from marrying their brother's wife. Herod, though, didn't execute John, for he came to respect John and even listened to John's teachings. This would have made Herodias angry, for she did want John dead. Sometime in the future, Herod had a birthday, and so, like most people do around their birthday, he held a party. This party likely included the drinking of alcohol, but it most assuredly included dancing. Now, there are many who claim that the Bible says nothing bad about dancing, or at the very least, it doesn't condemn dancing. So it would thus be wrong for a preacher to preach that people today shouldn't dance. I suggest that such people have not read this passage. Herodias' daughter, which would have been Herod's stepdaughter, came to this party and she danced before them. Now, from the reaction of the men after this dance, we can conclude that this was an erotic, lustful dance, and not simply innocent bodily movement, which is literally what dancing is. Lust and lasciviousness is condemned in the Bible, and condemned quite clearly. And causing others to lust would be equally condemned, which is why these types of dances, which quite frankly is what most dances are today, are not to be participated in nor watched by Christians. To say that we wouldn't lust, even though I believe we're fooling ourselves in that regard, doesn't matter. Causing others to lust after us is just as sinful, and so should be avoided. When Herod saw this dance, he was enticed by it, and he made a foolish oath that he would give Herodias' daughter whatever she wanted, up to half the kingdom. Now, I'm sure that Herod thought that the girl would come back and ask for money or some sort of gift, but that's not what she asked for. After consulting with her mother, she asked for John the Baptist's head on a platter. From all that we read of in the Gospels, Herodias' daughter had nothing to do with John the Baptist. She had no reason to be angry with him, for what sins their parents were committing did not affect her. To Herodias, though, such a promise opened the door to get what she'd been wanting for a while, John to be executed. Up to that point, Herod had been protecting him, but because he swore an oath she knew he wouldn't renege on, she jumped at the opportunity to kill John. Herod was exceedingly sorry about the oath that he made. It was made in haste, it was made without thinking, and it was likely made while drunk. But it was an oath nonetheless. Herod could have broken his oath, but then those who heard him make it might not trust what he had to say in the future, thus weakening his power over the people. So he acceded to his wife's wishes and had John the Baptist beheaded and his head brought on a platter to the girl, who in turn gave it to her mother. In what Herod did here, Herod sinned. He would have sinned either way, either by breaking his oath or by killing John. The Bible tells us that God always gives us a way of escape from sin. Herod's way of escape was not to allow dancing at his party. If he hadn't have done this, he wouldn't have made the oath, and John wouldn't have been beheaded. But sometimes we don't walk through God's way of escape, instead walking further down the paths of sin. This might put us in a situation that no matter what we do, we will sin. If we place ourselves in such a situation, it's not God's fault. It's our own fault, and we will bear the consequences for it. Once John's disciples heard what had happened, they went and retrieved the body and buried it. With that, our time is up today. The Lord willing, we hope you'll join us for tomorrow's discussion of Mark chapter 6, verses 30 to 34, as we continue our walk through the Bible, one verse at a time. Thank you for watching today's episode. We hope that you found it edifying and ask that you not only subscribe to our channel and podcast, but that you like and share this episode among your friends so that the saving gospel of Jesus Christ can go out to the whole world.